Thinking back to kind of my thoughts on your role, I knew you did a lot, but almost everything I think I saw was on court. It was the practices, the matches, individuals. And so when I graduated and became an assistant at the end of that summer, I think the biggest thing I realized is just how much stuff goes into, the role of an assistant coach that's off court, away from practice, away from matches. The administrative side of things, recruiting, compliance, general office work, was probably the biggest thing as a player you don't really see and understand as much. You go on the trips and you don't realize all the planning that it takes with hotels and flights, rental cars, the daily schedule, organizing practice, things like that. So a lot of that was really, the biggest difference that I felt my first year. I'd say the other thing that was probably, caught me a little off guard was just how stressful matches are as a coach. They obviously as a player, there's the nerves for sure, but that it was kind of a whole different experience. My first couple of years just trying to manage that and adjust, and I just remember, being emotionally and mentally exhausted after matches from being a coach. I think it differs for every program. I think, obviously the relationship with, the head coach and assistant coach, it's going to be different everywhere. And so, you know, a lot of it will depend on how the head coach runs their program, what their strengths are, and then that kind of translates into what an assistant needs to be doing. I think, one of the biggest things is just being able to, build relationships with the players. I think that's a huge responsibility. Um, I would say recruiting. I feel like my job as an assistant is to really, do a lot of the recruiting, a lot of the initial contact, looking through draws, finding players, starting that relationship with the recruits, and then, narrowing down those lists and, having the head coach become involved at that point, has, been pretty important. Obviously, a big responsibility is the on-court stuff, doing the individuals, being on court. That takes up a lot of your day, and then, things like care logs, compliance stuff, paperwork. I feel like that's an important part of the job too. My first thought was really just being personable. I think for me, so much of this job is the relationship with the student athletes, and it's ultimately about getting the most out of each player, and I think and giving them the best experience. And in order to do that, I mean, it's critical to be able to get to know them, get to understand, why they are like they are, how to get the best out of them. And so I think being personal, being able to kind of build that relationship and genuinely wanting to get to know them, and help them is huge. There's the quote, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's kind of how I feel, I go about my days in this job is just, working to have them have the best experience, and figuring out how to do that. Obviously, I think trust is a huge one. I think with the players and also with the head coach, I think, you've got to be trustworthy. The head coach has got to feel like, you're working together and united, and, that there's no doubts there. Same with the players. I think the players need to feel like that trust is really important. Um, I think you got to be hardworking. I think early on, especially when, I remember my first few years just trying to learn everything about about this job, about, college tennis, about administration, all of that. I was just learning, especially about recruiting. And it takes time. I think the days are long, and just trying to learn, how a program works, how a university works, how different places run, and put being willing to want to learn all of that stuff is really important. And then I'd say that, the last thing is just, passion and energy. I think that's important, for the players to see, and for you to portray all the time. I've only been an assistant coach, and I've worked at 3 different programs, and I'd say that, the biggest thing that I see from from the role of the head coach is just being able to juggle, a million things at once. I just think, I'm sure, you can relate to that. I think, every single day there's, you're dealing with your own team, with parents, administration, compliance, equipment, recruiting, support staff, and it's almost just like, you know, trying to juggle all of that is such a big part of the job. And I think as an assistant, I think I see all those things happening, but I'm not necessarily the one that's dealing with all of that. And so, I'm always impressed with, how the people I've worked for have juggled all of that. And I think the other kind of skill, or the difference is probably just the pressure. I think, I've talked to head coaches, and I think there's just a change, from being an assistant to a head coach. It's the program is yours, and I think there's pressure that goes along with that, and handling that, and being able to kind of embrace that is really important. And then I think, as I think to the, some of the differences, I just think mastering the administrative side of things, understanding the budget, scheduling, all of that stuff, and having a really good grasp of what's needed to run a program effectively. And what I'm trying to do, in my role, over the last 8, 10 years is really somebody who makes an impact. I think we talk a lot in our program with the girls about, making sure that you leave your mark on the program. And I think that goes for the assistant coach too. I think it goes for the volunteer coach, head coach. It's just finding ways to make an impact and to leave your mark. And so as an assistant, obviously, most importantly, having an impact on the players, but also all aspects of the program, the support staff, recruits, other coaches in the department. Um, I saw Alexis Casati posted the article on being a volunteer coach, and to me, I think it just, that it goes for that too. Is how can you come into a program and really feel like you make an impact. I think back to, the day that you told us you were leaving after 3 years, and just, the feeling of, wow, we're like really losing somebody who had such an impact on our program and on us. And when I think back, of course, someone asked who my assistant was, it's you, and the impact you made. And that's been kind of, my philosophy as I've, been in this role is how can I help our student athletes the most? How can I, not just, with the time when they're here, but how can I help prepare them for life after college, and push them, and make them better, and give them an experience that, they're gonna remember forever.